Brother, thank you for coming on, man. Helping me inspire our people, not only our people. When I first started this, it was for everybody in Guam, essentially. And then I was just like, oh man, you know what? There's other people in Guam and other people outside Guam that's here that sometimes they're in a rough spot, and a lot of the islanders that are out here, a lot of them are in a rough spot that they get homesick and they're like, man, what I'm doing out here is probably not even working. I want to go back home. And I was like, man, there's a lot of people's stories out here that they started struggling and then now they're thriving. And me being one of them, when I first came out here in 2020, I was just like, this is not it. I was staying home because COVID and stuff like that, and I was getting very homesick, and I was like, I just want to go home. But then my uncle, he stayed out here, and he was like, no boy, you go home, you're gonna stop the momentum. And I was like, dang, and he was right. So reason why I started this is because I have yet to find someone to tell their story because everybody else relates to it in a sense.
Absolutely.
And in any shape, form, and whether they left for jujitsu or they left for military or personal reasons or college, like it all circles back to wanting to better themselves and their life. So that just is the reason why I started this. So
First off, I just want to say, man, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be on the platform. I've been seeing you do your thing for the past couple years. We all follow each other on social media. So it's always nice to see everybody's progression in life. And, like you said, there was no outlet for our people, right? Or like representations of our people moving to the States, going through their hardships and just kind of going through the process, not really having much guidance. So it's cool to see that you're doing this to help those who are maybe back home in Guam and also give those who are living out here some hope and give them something to relate to, because I think oftentimes as people, we think that we're alone, right? Especially come from a small island where we come from. We think that when we leave, it's like we're all by ourselves, but we're really not. There's so many people that come from where we come from that are doing the same thing. And I think the platform is great and I'm excited to be on here. But yeah, a little bit about me. My name is Kevin Cruz. I moved to Texas when I was 26. That was 2016. I'm 34 now. So this year will be my 10-year anniversary. September will be my 10-year anniversary moving to Texas. Man, I don't know. I can't say how my life would be like if I didn't move. It was like meant to happen, and everything that has happened from then till now is just been an amazing journey, you know, with a lot of ups and downs, definitely a lot of downs, but we're still here and we're still moving on.
so brother, what was your like growing up on the island? How did you come to jujitsu?
Good question. That's a really good question. A lot of people ask me that. I started jujitsu 2010. I knew about it. I knew about it for many years. And a lot of, our peers, a lot of my peers, because you're actually younger than me, a lot of my peers were already doing jujitsu in middle school. Two people of which were Eric Cian and, Kyle Boom Ragers, rest in peace. But yeah, those were the two people doing it. And my really good friend, Matt Nielsen, Matt. So I knew about it since middle school, but I don't know. I think there was an ego around not wanting to do things that my friends did, and I wanted to be different. So I played other sports. I was super active during middle school, high school, and then I don't know, for some reason after high school when all the interscholastic sports were over, I needed to find another outlet because I love to compete and I just love the process of training to be competitive. So that's what brought me to jiu-jitsu. And yeah, it all kind of just all happened so quickly. I was brought to Carlson Gracie by my cousin who was actually training there. Shout out to my cousin Philip Cruz. He was training there before me, and all the boys trained there already. All the boys have for years tried to invite me over, but I just never took them up on the offer. So this one day, my cousin just picked me up and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna take you to the gym with me. I want you to give it a try." So from that day forward, man, the day I started, I never stopped.
See, maybe that's like
Never stopped.
it's always a relative or someone of influence to just like, hey, they picked me up and they took me there because they didn't trust me enough to just drive myself there.
I mean, yeah, I think at the time, yeah, I was driving already, but yeah, it takes that little kick in the butt, a little bit fire under you to go do something that's it's a little bit scary. I think I made it up in my head all those years of not wanting to do what my friends were doing and just it was all ego. At the end of the day we were young. We didn't really know how to process our true emotions. So I let it get the best of me, but that day for some reason it just all worked out. I had no choice but to go and I'm so glad I did it.
So Were you always just with Gabe for the most part, or was it like a? Because man, like for me, right? Like me, John Meno, and some of the other boys like McLean, Boom, and everybody else. Like we kind of like even Matt Nelson. Like we all like we're all together, and then one year it was just like we just all like we went separate ways.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it was a rough time, and
A lot of changes.
yeah, it was like a normal thing though. It's like a normal thing for like
Your group
and
of yeah,
yeah,
your
it was
group
so normal. It was
of
just normal for us
teammates.
to just break apart, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I know you've been with Gabe, right, for a long time when you first started to you leaving. Can you explain like I don't know, I never trained under Gabe.
Mhm.
How was that when you first started? Like how was your relationship with Gabe and his influence on your jujitsu? How did it impact you?
Man, I remember yeah, so to answer your question, yes, I did start with Gabe, and my entire career while living in Guam, I stayed with the same gym, you know, and I was very fortunate because we were able to keep a stable community, right? Gabe was able to keep a stable community. He always made sure that we had a place to train. He always made sure that we were together, you know, and I owe a lot of that to him because he created that environment. Sorry. But my relationship with Gabe when I first started, it's like just like I guess any student to teacher, you know, there's a lot of respect. And I think as an instructor, now being an instructor, seeing my students and people who are like really dedicating themselves to the art. I don't want to say you treat them differently, but you just give them more time, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all investing our own energy and our time into people. And I think that's what Gabe saw in me. Gabe saw that I was consistent. Gabe saw that I was a hard worker. And he made sure to really give me all the resources I need to become successful, right? Whether that be hard training, whether that be mentorship and all that. So, you know, I owe a lot of my beginning success to Gabe, and I always appreciate him for that. But our relationship was great, man. Our relationship was great. You know, student to teacher, he pushed me, he gave me the platform, and I pretty much had to do the rest. You know, I had to do the hard work, and I had to put myself out there to make a name for myself.
Yeah, so the reason why I asked that is because like Lewis plays a big influence in my jujitsu right now, right? I still see some glimpse of technique or habits that I still do up to now that still mirrors what Lewis has taught me. And
Hmm.
I was like thinking about it last week because I was one of my students was like, "Hey, professor, how do you like? Why do you pass like that?" You know, and I just stopped and I was like, "Why do I pass like that?"
Yeah.
You know, it was like one
Where
of
did I
those
get
questions.
this from?
Yeah, it was one of those questions like, dude, I have to go back to the where it originated. You know, I'm just like, okay, cool. Lewis showed me this when I was a little kid, and I just continue to do it. I
Hmm.
just refined it, or I know how to manipulate it. That's about it. But
Yeah, yeah.
I had to go back, and that's the reason why I asked you that
It's
because,
like a reflection. It's like a reflection
yeah,
of your style, right? And I think a big part of that too is, you know, you're heavily influenced by your teachers,
hmm
right? And I wouldn't say that my style is how it was when I first started because we all evolve. But yes, in the beginning, if I look back, my style was very much like Carlson Gracie, smash pass, Gabe Baker style. Yeah, I don't know. It was just very tough. It was very like brute. I don't feel like it was as technical as my approach now, but it was really good for tournaments.
what was your what was your view of Guam's jujitsu scene growing up in the ranks? Like from
Mhm.
blue, purple, you know, I mean, even when you're a white belt, like what was the scene like from your perspective?
From my perspective, like from a technical standpoint, or just like overall, like the
Like
culture.
the culture overall, because you know, like when I was little, it was just a lot of like rivalry and bad blood. You know, anywhere you went, it was so weird. Like you wear a purebred shirt, like
Right,
you're getting
right,
it ripped
yeah.
off your back, or you're getting mugged down. You know, for I don't know, for, like being an adult now, looking back at it, it's like, man, that's like pretty stupid.
I mean, yeah, well, think about it. It's a small island. We were all kids, right? It's a warrior culture. So everybody has that sense of like protecting their own. So I see why it was like that. I wish it didn't last as long as it did because we did have a lot of talent, and we do have a lot of talent. I'm sure. You know, I haven't been back home, but I know there's a lot of talent brewing. It's just the way our culture is. From my perspective, I felt like it was too political. And, when I talk to other people and I hear like conversations of the past, even before us, even like when Jiu-Jitsu first started on Guam, you hear stories of the per se OGs talking about like it was basically like gangs versus gangs. And it's definitely come a long way from then. But yeah, that was my perspective. I felt like there was just too much politics. We had too much talent to be just locked in with our own teams and not be able to collaborate and
Yeah,
build a team Guam.
funny you mentioned that. It's because I was ever since I've been out here, I cross train a lot of places, especially when I'm like 6 weeks out before a tournament. Always have to cross train to get different feels for different bodies, right?
Of
But
course.
especially in my area, I'm not, and a lot of the gym owners here, they understand cross training within the area because of the fact that like when we go out to another state or to a bigger tournament, like you're not the chances of you fighting the same person that you live in the same area is like very slim. And I thought back on it, I was just like, man, what if we're doing the same thing in Guam of cross training and then going to compete off island, we would probably be top performers. And then because we're bringing it back because we have to go back home.
Yeah.
And that's what one thing that I was like, sad about was the whole rivalry thing and not being able to train. Like the best training I ever got was when Gabe was hosting open mat on Sunday. Those are like the best training, like
Oh
all the
yeah,
boys
those
were
are
there.
man,
It
those are
was fun. There was no like ego. It was just like it was all fun. We got to learn whatever we got to play whatever we learned throughout the week at our own academy, and then Sunday it was like okay, let's go try it out. Then we're
yeah.
talking, tweaking it with each other. And but by the end
It
of the day,
was
yeah,
healthy it was healthy.
it was, yeah. And I was just like, what I mean? I was like, if we brought that same energy when we were little, like it would have been a different story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I
I mean,
hope,
hindsight 20.
yeah, and I hope that like people that are practicing the sport, they understand that there's a lot of respect in it. And one thing with respecting is respecting your training partner, respecting your opponent too that you're competing against. And
Absolutely, man.
there's never you can never take that away from the sport is because what it's basically instilled in you when the moment you start stepping on the mat and you put on the kimono. Like I said, brother, like, it was a weird time when we were coming up the ranks. How did you stay like neutral? Because I know you had friends. I have friends from every gym.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you stay neutral? And you went to high school with a lot of them.
Yeah.
How did young Kevin Cruz stay neutral with everybody to make sure that like the peace was being and the respect was being held?
Yeah. Man, I did I when I look back, I don't think I thought about it that deeply. I looked at outside of jujitsu and the ranks and the kimono and all that, and the flag that you flew on your back when you competed is I didn't see those things. I saw a lot of these guys, like you said, I grew up with a lot of these guys from middle school, high school, so they were my friends, right? Jiu-jitsu just made those relationships stronger because there was something that we can share together. And I saw it more as like they were my friends. I felt like that's why I was able to stay neutral because I was able to see beyond the teams that we train with. Granted, there's when you're younger, your ego, you're always trying to like compete and all that stuff, right? I keep bringing that up, but it's the truth. If we had just had more control of our ego or had guidance on how to deal with that, we wouldn't have been in those situations where we felt like, oh, we couldn't hang out or we couldn't train with these people because their instructors are going to get mad at them or their instructors are not going to be happy with them training elsewhere because for whatever reason, right? Everybody has their own reasons. But how I looked at it was like I just tried to be myself. I just tried to be a good person on and off the mats. And if people invited me to train, I went to go train. If there was an opportunity for people to come train with me, I would invite them over and it would just be a great collaboration. And that's how it all started. I feel like our generation, I talk about this with Matt and some of the other guys, Ryan Bustamante. It's like our generation is the one that really started the whole like collaboration with each other, being able to train on those Sunday open mats and just hang out. It was just hanging out, having fun, doing something that we loved.
The only how I remember like everybody like in my perspective how I remember everyone coming together was like always it was always through music. It was always through music or like a barbecue or something.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Because like you had John
Some sort
Meno,
of
like
celebration.
Yeah, it was always at John's house. You know what I mean? It
right?
was always at
Yeah.
John Menno's house. You know, everybody came. You know, even I remember like even Christian Cepeda, he'll like come over. He's like, yeah, I stay next door. You know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
was cool. You know, and that's it was through like even just hanging out through music. Because even Anton, you know, everybody was like you singing. You know what I mean? Everyone did something. You know, other than jujitsu,
I
and it
mean,
was like,
typical island life, right? Barbecues and music. That was
yeah,
the
yeah.
vibe.
And that's all we did, you know what I mean? Like that's how I remember everybody was through music, you know, and hanging out and stuff.
And like cool parties on the weekend.
Yeah, like Anton's house was like always the spot too, you know.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward to 2016. What didn't bro? I didn't even know you left like that long.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a
Like,
while. It's been a while.
so what prompted you to leave in 2016?
Man, that's like a story that's like very dear to me because like I told you earlier, right? It's like leaving really changed how I look at not only jujitsu, but how I perceive like the world, you know, my worldview on everything. And I think the big influence for me leaving 2016 was, you know, my instructor now, my mentor now, James Kwan, right? You know, a lot of people had the opportunity to experience his teaching, got to train with him because he was basically training with everybody when he was living in Guam. And I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate to build a relationship with him early on. And it all started with taking privates, right? And just a little backstory, a lot of people don't know that there was two major moments in my jiu-jitsu career where I wanted to quit jiu-jitsu. I wanted to quit because, you know, I trained hard. That was never a question. I dedicated everything. I was when I want to do something, I become like super obsessive, you know? And like I said, when I started jujitsu, I never stopped because that was the case. I wanted to get better. And if that meant I had to show up every day and beat my body up and train hard, you know, that was what I was going to do. Blue belt, three stripe, I would make it to the finals. And I think there was a couple of times that you and I have fought and, you know, I think you beat me in the finals this at blue belt or something like that. I forget what belt it was, but yeah, we always had battles, right?
Yeah,
Amongst all the
yeah.
other guys. But I remember just there was a big crossroads in my journey where I was like, man, I think this is not for me, right? Like you doubt yourself because I would win every matchup until the finals and I would lose in the finals. It's like it was just all mental, right? But when I look back, it was mental because I wasn't technically at the level that I thought I was. And you know, in order to gain confidence, you need proof. You need proof of that confidence. And in jujitsu, it's having good technique and being prepared mentally and physically. So that was kind of the crossroads. And then I remember I was like, I got to figure something out. I got to do something different because I can't expect better results doing the same routine. So I talked to Gabe about it and he was like, hey, would you like to do a private with James? James is offering private lessons. So I was like, what are private lessons? I didn't know, you know, no one was really pushing private lessons at the time. If they did, it was just within their community and their gym. So fast forward, I was like, fuck it, what do I have to lose? So I took a private with James and from that day forward, it's like, you know, like when a key or like a missing piece in a puzzle, that's what it was for me. He was able to share with me a different philosophy of jujitsu that I always felt was there, but I just didn't know or I didn't see it because I was so focused on just the competing part and grinding. I wasn't thinking about the technical aspects or like the philosophy of leverage, the philosophy of like weight distribution, right? All these concepts that are deeper than just techniques. So that's really where it all started, man. And from there, we built a relationship. I took many more privates. And I'll never forget, he asked me on our first private, he's like, do you want me to be your coach or do you want me to be your mentor? He's like, if you want me to be your mentor, it's going to be a slow process. Cause he's like, I can only get you to where I'm at from where you're at. He's like, if you want me to be a coach, I can give you the tools and the resources to be successful in competition. So, of course, me at the time, right? Losing in finals, not winning gold. I was like, I want you to be my coach. I want to win gold, right? This was, I think, blue belt three stripe, blue belt four stripe. So fast forward, we got our training sessions in. You know, we got a few privates in, and a few weeks later, I got promoted to purple. And I'm sure you remember this time. This was around the time that they had the GSPN Opens.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
first GSPN Open was at UOG.
Yep.
I was a fresh purple belt. I forget what year it was, but it was just grassroots style tournament.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. I was like, this is my opportunity. This is my opportunity to create a new version of myself. And I remember being super nervous because GSPN was an open weight.
Yeah, yeah,
It
it
was,
was.
yeah, it was open class. So they had guys like McLean in there, right? All the other purple belts, I forget who are some who they were, but I just remember the ones were McLean, Matt Nielsen, Nate Santos, right, and some other purple belts. And I remember I was like, damn, these guys are all seasoned purple belts. These guys have been purple belts for like years.
And
I was like,
they're way
I got
bigger than
nothing to
us.
lose. Was
Yeah, and
that?
they're way bigger than most of us.
Yeah, yeah, it was an absolute division, right? The only person that was probably smaller than me was McLean, but I was just like, what do I got to lose? I got nothing to lose. So I remember that tournament. It was my first tournament. I was just like, I'm just gonna go out there and just do what I've been working on, right? Everything lined up, and my first purple belt tournament, I was able to win the absolute division. I fought McLean first, beat him by submission, and then I fought Nate in the finals, right? Probably the most seasoned purple belt. And Nate's a gamer. And I'll never forget, I was able to win by, I think it was a ref decision or like an advantage. And man, just the triumph of losing almost every blue belt gold medal match and then becoming a fresh purple belt and winning against a seasoned purple belt was like, that really showed me that the change that I made, right? And how I saw jujitsu from the philosophy that James shared with me really changed everything. And I talk about this story because that was the pivotal moment in helping me make the decision to leave, right? And then fast forward, James ended up leaving because he was going to get married to his wife, and then he's like, "Hey, I'm going to move to Texas. If you ever want to train, if you ever want to, come by, come by." Yeah, so I thought about that and I was like, man, I'm gonna miss out on this opportunity of learning more when I have already got a glimpse of it and it changed my jujitsu journey. What more if I spent more time under him? So, 2 years later, I think that was 2014, if I remember. And then I think 2016 was when I was like, this is the date I'm gonna leave. So I had to plan, right? I planned like about a year or two. And yeah, I finally made the leap in 2016.
Dang. So then from there you just moved to Texas and then stayed under James, and then now how is that relationship now, from when you said, "Hey James, I'm moving to Texas."
Yeah. I think just like any relationship, right? Especially from an instructor to student, I had so much to learn, and we're always learning. But I think at the time I was just so eager to understand jujitsu at a level that I didn't see other people around me try to do, right? Or at least the high level guys did it. So I was like, okay, if the high level guys are doing it, then that's probably the direction that I should be going if I want to be considered at the highest level, right? So when I moved here, it was obviously an instructor to student relationship. And I'm very grateful for him because he never held back on me. He never held back. He never gate kept any information. It was like I was like his new project, right? And then now 10 years later, it's evolved, right? Like we have a great relationship, and with all relationships it has its challenges, but at the end of the day it's like he has high integrity, he has good intentions, and I try to do the same thing as well. And our relationship has grown. Now I feel like it's more of peers. We're peers now. And it's a big switch in dynamics, right? Because you go from being the student and then constantly looking up to this mentor or this coach, and then there's a point where they teach you everything that they know, and then now you guys are peers. Now you guys are like collaborating on material, you guys are collaborating on concepts, and it's a very different dynamic between you and your instructor, you know?
It's funny you mentioned wanting to quit, because I was at a crossroad too at one point when I first moved out here, and I was like, man, I can't hang with these guys. Like, these guys are better
Yeah.
than me, and I don't know what's going on. Like, I went home. I remember going home. I was in Georgia, and I sat in my living room. I was just like, what's going on with my jiu? Because that night
Like a reality check.
I got murked very bad. Like, it was so bad that I was like, wow, I don't, what's going on with me? I was like, it didn't come to me in the weeks after week after week until it finally clicked. It was like, dude, you got to change your mentality, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you have to be more smarter the way you train, not only on the mat, but off the mat too. So I was like, okay, what do I need to switch? I was like, let's start with the small things. Let's not lift weights anymore. Let's do Pilates. Let's do yoga. Let's
Yeah.
do something
Do
to
something
make
different.
to make my mind right too, you know, like let's center myself, you know, and my mind probably wasn't aligned with my body, you know, and that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'd imagine too you were going through a lot of adjusting and a lot of change,
yeah,
right? I don't
yeah.
I don't know the I don't know the weather in Georgia. I don't know like the culture in Georgia, but I'm guessing it was very different from the island life.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was definitely
Especially you were in
different.
the military too, right? So you were kind of confined in a way. So I'm sure there was a lot of emotions and a lot of like mental blockages happening. And it wasn't necessarily that your jujitsu wasn't good enough. It's just that your mind wasn't in the right place.
Yeah, no, that's 100% facts. And it took weeks after weeks after weeks to like it finally clicked. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Pilates. I'm gonna go to yoga, try it out. I'm gonna try something different. And I did, you know, I met this one trainer. He was like, hey, how about instead of lifting weights, like how about you just do like try doing more resistant bands, more time under tension. Don't put your body into strain. So when you do go training, you can train actually like you can
Yeah.
train to perfection. You know, I was like, you know what? That's why
No
he's
one
like,
taught
yeah,
us that. That's the thing. You had to
no,
figure that out on your own, right? No one taught us that back home. They were just
no.
like, go in the weight room, go to Paradise Fitness, lift like bodybuilders, get jacked, and do jujitsu.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So I was
like,
just
bro,
like
you can only do that for so long. Like when you're in your 20s, that's easy. But when you start to get older, man, like your body, that's the one sure thing that's gonna happen is our body's gonna break down and we're gonna get older.
yeah, so I was just like, I was like, okay, cool. Let me, you know, this guy's like telling me resistant bands. Like, bro, this thing's not even gonna work.
And like
Tried it
resistance
out.
bands, like that's too easy.
Yeah, so I tried it out for a whole month, man. And I think I didn't get the training out of it, but I got the friendship out of it more. And how he used, he used training as a way to even let me talk about my day to day, what's going on, you know, and he put it into, he put a lot of my problems into perspective
Yeah.
of like, hey man, like, you know, you're going through this, but you know, you gotta slow down and you know, in the mornings, like that's why when you mentioned your morning routine, I was like, I have my morning routine where I slow the world down before it gets fast.
Yeah, dude. You
I need
have
to
to.
I need to stop and just slow it down and then think. And that's what he said. He's like, you have to slow the world down and you have to just do one rep at a time or just move in slow motion. If you don't allow yourself that time or allow your mind to catch up, you're just always gonna constantly play the rat race. And I was like,
Yeah. I mean,
that's
that's the thing. Like I think we have the idea of what you just said, right? Like being like, I like to think of it like being fully integrated. That's the way I also look at the body and really everything that we do, right? Is things things are not moving separately. Things are not like moving in different parts. They're all different parts moving together as one system, right? And it's funny you bring up training because that's been my new like fixation is, understanding the body, trying to find better ways that sustain our overall functionality as we age, and also to help supplement for jujitsu, right? Because, jujitsu is, I'm not gonna lie to you, jujitsu is super hard on your body. It's probably one of the worst sports to do for your body. And if you're not doing anything outside of jujitsu to make it stronger from a mobility, flexibility, stability standpoint, then you're just waiting. You're waiting in the wings to get injured because it's inevitable, right? You know this from training. You could feel good, you feel strong, but then you just find yourself in a position where you're compromised and things happen. And that happens like often.
yeah, it does. And so I want to hone it in. Like, so when James moved and then you moved, did James have was it always his dream to open his gym? Because
Yeah.
I remember James talking to Chris. Chris took a lot of privates from James.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I took one private with James. But you know me, I was so young that James was throwing philosophy out. I was just like, "Bruh, cool."
I think
It-
I think all of us,
you know,
we were the education and the level that we understood things was really, really low compared to the knowledge that he had. He went to grad school. He
yeah.
understood pedagogy. He knew how to teach. So
Yeah, no, like for me,
a lot of
he
the
was
concepts that he shared was just over our head. It just blew over our head.
yeah. So he taught Chris a lot of things, and Chris is a receptible person, like my brother. He pays attention to everything. It's weird, and that's why he's a very good teacher because he can break stuff down, like even in his mind. James, he would train with James, and then James would like say some philosophy stuff, or like how to shape our mind of how we think of a technique or a certain position. But I didn't get it because I was very young and very arrogant, you know. So I was like, no, that's not gonna work. You know what I mean? I didn't see Andre
Yeah.
Cavall do that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean? I was in that phase, and then Chris took it, and you know, he's a really good teacher. So I do see where James has his influence. You know what I mean? Like big time. And I see it in you. But was he was he always planning to start a gym when he moved to Texas? Because I know he was talking about it in Guam, but I knew he wasn't going to start it in Guam because he was like, I remember one time he was talking to Chris. He's like, "Yeah, I want to open my own school, but not here." He said, "Not
Yeah.
here," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay,
So yeah, to on that like subject, I think James, when you talk to James, I don't think he was going. I don't think he really wanted to open he wasn't sure. He wasn't sure if he was going to
yeah,
open an academy or not. But he was teaching privates to one of these other guys in our gym, and he was like another mentor. You know, he was like a mentor of James, and he was also like a father figure and a mentor of a lot of the guys in the gym. You know, he like supported us. He paid for like our tournament fees, and he always just took care of us like we were his kids. And he was a lot older. He started jiu-jitsu later on in his life, like when he was in his mid 40s, close to 50s. So he would take privates with James, and I guess James was at a crossroads of figuring out if he wanted to continue teaching and just let that be his life or teach jujitsu. He was still like unsure. And then there was a time where this individual, his name was Joe, he told James, he's like, this is what you should be doing, right? Like, you love this, you're good at it, and you should start teaching jujitsu. So from that conversation, I think that's what instilled in James' mind, like, okay, I need to do this, But if you ask him now, he'd be like, I wasn't planning on opening an academy. I wasn't planning on being a jiu-jitsu instructor. And he looks back, he's like, man, I'm glad I made that decision with how many lives he was able to impact. And granted, right, if you have the gifts, he had the gift, obviously, of teaching and his love for jiu-jitsu. And that just shows through all the people that he was able to influence and inspire. And, there's a lot of people out there I know that have been inspired by him, even if they don't say it. But when you meet someone like him, it's hard not to. It's hard not to be inspired and influenced by someone with such a great mind in jiu-jitsu. I always make a joke. I'm like, you're like the Islander John Danaher. He doesn't give himself enough credit for like how great his mind is. I think all great people do that. All smart people, they never feel like they're there because
yeah."
they know that the more they learn, the more they realize that there's so much more to learn, and they're just very humble. But nah, man, he's a great mind, and I owe a lot of my jiu-jitsu success and philosophy and understanding and depth of knowledge to James. And I'm sure your brother can say the same thing too.
Oh yeah, no facts. So what is your now you're established. James opened his gym. You're teaching now, and I remember texting you, and I was like, "Hey, Par, are you gonna go do this tournament?" And you're like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm not doing tournaments right now. I'm focusing on teaching." You know, it's 2026 now. Do you, and it's still January. Do you have any plans this year? Not stepping back from teaching, but doing more competition.
Yep. It's funny you bring that up. Yeah. So I initially wanted to do that 2025, right? Because it was my first year at black belt. And that's the level that I've always dreamed of competing since I was a white belt, right? You watch old school worlds matches at the pyramid, and you see like guys like Marcelo Garcia, Roger Gracie, and all these high level guys, the Mendez brothers. And you're like, man, what does it feel like to be at that level and on that stage, right? And I was able to compete at really every level at Worlds, from white, blue, purple, brown, and I have yet to compete at the adult Worlds at black, and that's still one of my goals. But the good thing now is that there's a Masters Worlds, which is what I'm aiming to do this year. That's my big tournament that I want to really focus on this year. So leading up to that, of course, I want to do smaller tournaments like Houston Open, Dallas, maybe even Austin, just to get my feet wet and get back in the groove of competing. Because, as you know, it takes a lot, right? It takes a lot to physically prepare for these tournaments, but also to be mentally there, mentally like present in that moment. Because there's a lot of, yeah, there's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, But no, I definitely look to compete a lot more this year. I'm super excited about it. We just started our camp, and how we have our thing set up is we have a very, very well thought out and well planned regimen. We compete at our gym. We're not a competition team, but we do have people that aspire to compete. We created a plan, or James created a plan for us to have a camp, right? So 6 months out of the year, we focus on training for competition and competing. And then the second half of the year, the other 6 months is a learning phase, right? And I think that's a very different approach than most people. Most people just compete all year whenever they can. But the problem is like, when are you getting better? When are you developing skills? So we have it where we're in camp right now, leading up all the way till April. It's about three to 4 months. And then after that, you can compete in whatever competition you want after because you're prepared. So
I agree with that. 100% agree with that because I do 6 weeks at a time. The reason why, and a lot of people don't understand, is like the reason why I do 6 weeks at a time is I do 6 weeks of preparation. It's like lifting, running,
yeah.
swimming, doing all my vascular thing. That's 6 weeks, and then I have another 4 weeks of strategy training. So like altogether it's like about almost 10 weeks of just like self-development. You know, a lot of people don't understand that. Like it takes a lot. I started to adopt a D1 athlete's performance regimen, you know,
Yep.
which is like
Yep.
study film. Like it's like football, you study film,
I mean, every
study
sport does it.
position. Yeah.
Every professional sport does it. So it's like, why aren't why aren't more people doing it in jujitsu? And I can't say that not everybody's doing it. I'm sure all the higher level gyms and teams, like competition teams, are doing it too. It's just, why isn't this easily accessible for, the people that just want to compete because they enjoy competing? Maybe they don't have aspirations of wanting to be a world champion. Why isn't that format available, or this outlook, available to these people?
No, I agree, and that's why I said I had to adopt the D1 mindset of regimen because, like you said, you just can't keep going and beat up your body, and you're never gonna grow. You're never
You
gonna learn
can't,
your
man.
mistakes, you know, and then you're gonna get frustrated and be like, "Why am I always keep losing?" You know, like I was doing an experiment. Last year's Masters World was my experiment, so a lot of people were like, "Oh man, dude, Dex, you're gonna do good, bro. You're gonna, you know what I mean? You're gonna go win, bro." I'm not there to win though. I'm there to
Yeah.
test my experiment. You know what I mean? A lot of people are like,
Yeah.
dude, that's an expensive experiment. I was like, it is what it is, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean,
And
yeah.
I did the 6 weeks, I did the 6 weeks, I did the 4 weeks leading up. And then in the morning, I did the morning of the fight. I was like, okay, I'm going to do what the regimen told me to do. Basically, like sauna, stretch, water, go compete, right? And I did that. I shocked myself because
Mhm.
at the highest level, I got a black belt's back. That right there was like a win for me. I was like, it works.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
works. Now I gotta just minor adjust, tailor it in, you know. And so I was like, you know what, back to the drawing board after Master Roads. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna compete until March. I'm gonna
Nice.
compete till March. Yeah, I'm gonna
Man,
give myself.
that takes a lot of discipline. I think to compete at the highest level nowadays, I get it. Everybody's does a lot of people do it full time, but at the Masters Worlds level, it's like you said, it's about experimenting. It's about going out there and testing what you've been working on, right? And that's our stage. That's our stage for being older practitioners, older competitors to go do that, right? It's a platform for us.
So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm much older, much wiser. I think I'm gonna do more adults. I'm gonna do more adults, more patient, and I wanna see if I can get to the worlds as an
Yeah.
adult, you know. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make that my goal, you know, and that's next year's goal. So that's pretty much the regimen that I put myself in. And I was like, the reason why, like you talking about it, you know, I'm so happy that you guys adopted that because now you're gonna create longevity. You're gonna create longevity
That's
of
always been
not only
That's
on the mat
always
but
been
off the
the
mat.
that's always been the main goal. And something that I realized when I first moved out here, right? Because when I first moved out here, I wanted to just compete because now I'm in a position where there's competitions every weekend. And but James saw that I was hungry to compete and he knew I had that fire and I wanted to like prove myself out here. And the first tournament I did, it was I forget what tournament it was. I think it was a fight to win tournament, and I did well. I did well. I lost in the finals against this just really like strong, super spazzy brown belt. I lost by I think like an advantage or 2 points or something like that. But it was a great experience. And then the second tournament I did was a fight to win on a stage. And I was like coming off of submit on Guam and all these other organizations. When you go to like Fight to Win, it's a different atmosphere. And I remember telling Seth Daniels, he's like, "Hey, I don't know how I'm gonna put you with yet, but are you willing to fight up a weight class?" And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. Right? Jiu-jitsu shouldn't have weight classes. So I remember I fought this really game brown belt who was just tearing up the competition scene. And bro, he handed it to me. I got murked. He didn't submit me because it was a submit only tournament, but I did not feel like I was in control of the match. And that's the moment that really helped me kind of double back and settle in and be like, okay, I have a lot to work on and I shouldn't be jumping straight into competitions. I got to figure out my game. I got to build my jujitsu back up again.
I like
And
that, man.
that was the turning point again. There's all these little checkpoints in your journey and in your life where you either keep doing what you're doing or you adjust and you make changes for the alignment of your future yourself, or your results. And
I like
I'm
that.
glad I did it, bro. Now it's all about longevity.
And I'm glad, man. I'm glad because, like I said, I've the gym I train at. So I train with CCO and Fernanda. Remember Fernanda from Evox? Her dad owns Evox in Japan.
No, I'm not familiar. But I
So
think I know of the guy that you train with. I think he was teaching here in Texas, right? At some point.
yes, yes, he
Yes.
was. He was. Yeah, CCO was training in Texas, and then
Yeah.
he got an opportunity to move out here. So even
Nice.
our gym, our gym's not big. Like, and I told CCO this. I talked to him last week about it. I was like, you know what? I don't like big gyms. I like quality people with starting off with white belts because all of them, majority of them are white belts. And now they're
Yeah.
blue belts, and I like that.
You guys
Like
are still building the program.
yeah, but one thing I like is like I'm not. I learn from them
Yes.
because I'm learning new positions. I'm still like relearning the basic positions still. And that's what I like. I'm not just diving into worm guard and staying on worm guard for like 6, 7 months. It's more like how do you do a basic armbar, and then like how do I teach a basic armbar?
That's it
You know,
right there. Like what you just said right there. That's the beauty of teaching people who are new and being in charge of people who are like beginners, right? It's like your it's your responsibility to understand the technique well enough to be able to transfer that knowledge. And you make adjustments, right? You learn ways to problem solve, you learn ways to troubleshoot the problems they're having, and then it makes you better because you're like, "Oh, I never thought about it being like, I never thought about that problem like that, or I never really had that type of issue." So it's like, how can I better teach my students with this type of like approach?
Yeah, no, agree. And like I said, teaching made me way more. It made me way more understandable about different positions, but then also people made me understand more people and respect the sport even more. Because like I'm responsible. Like, them competing and me and CCO sees it as like we're responsible for their jujitsu and how they portray it out there when they compete as a representation of us.
Yep,
And I was like,
exactly.
and that's where I feel great. A lot of people don't find joy in teaching. I find joy in teaching now, and it's awesome. So, brother, what is your if you had to give an advice to a practitioner in Guam or even someone going through hard times, what are some advice you can give them when wanting to take a leap of faith on themselves?
So that's a multiple part question, right? So
It is.
I think the first one, the advice I would give to somebody starting jujitsu or someone who's in jujitsu that's struggling, I can only speak from experience. So I would say keep working, the areas that you're struggling with, right? Try to understand where you're like obviously where you're struggling, but try to find ways to make the problem better, right? Because I think we get caught up in trying to do the same things, but there comes a point where you need to adapt and you need to adjust. That's really what jujitsu is, right? Whether it's on the mats, whether it's off the mats, like it teaches you how to be adaptable. If you're not getting the outcome that you want, you have to you have to study. You have to learn. That can be through yourself, that could be through mentorship, that could be through other resources, but you can't be mad if you're not progressing because that's your responsibility. So, I know that's a lot in one explanation, but I would say be adaptable and enjoy the process because it is a long process. I know it's so cliche to say, but it's a long process. And if you want to do this for the rest of your life, then experiment with everything. You never know until you try, right? People could tell you, oh, do this, do that. But if you don't try it, how will you know?
I like that, man.
And then for the second thing, I think your question was about what advice would I give someone in a rough spot or
Wanting to
wanting
take
to
a
like wanting
wanting
to
to
take a leap of faith?
a leap of faith on and take a chance on themselves, because we don't ask that question is because if I didn't take a chance on myself leaving, you didn't take a chance on yourself of leaving, we would never know what
We would never
who
be,
we
yeah, we would never
the
be, we would
version of
never
who we
know.
are now.
No, absolutely, man. I would say understand your why, right? No matter what you do, whether that's for jujitsu, whether that's for your life, your career, your personal life, it's you have to understand why you're doing certain things. You have to be very intentional about what you're doing because if you're not intentional, then you're just spinning your wheels. You're just going in circles. But, if you have some clarity, if you have a vision and you have a big enough why, it doesn't matter how you're going to get there. It's a matter of when you're going to get there. And I think that's what I hold really like dear to myself is my why is continuous improvement, continuous self-development. And I believe that if I constantly keep getting better, then by default, everybody around me is going to get better. And I think that's important. And that's one of the reasons why I started, my brand Upward, because the word just holds so much power, right? Like when you hit rock bottom, all the times that I've been down, all the times that I felt like quitting and giving up, you really can't go any lower than that. There's only one trajectory and there's only one direction, and that's, going up, moving upward, upward trajectory. And that's kind of what I want to build with Upward and just my personal brand in general is I want to give people that sense of self-mastery in whatever pursuit that they're doing in their life. And no matter how hard it gets, no matter where they're at in life, there's always an opportunity to move in that upward trajectory.
I like that, man. Very powerful message, bro. And like I said, I appreciate you taking the time and sitting down with me and sharing your experience, man. Because you're believe it or not, you're one of the person I look up to, man. When I saw
Thanks,
you
bro. I
leave,
appreciate it, man.
when I saw you leave, I was like, in 2016, I was still in Guam, and I just joined the National Guard, and I was watching your stories. I was like, man, what does it take to do that, and I watched you progress from first moving out there to where you're at now,
Yeah.
and I run into you in tournaments and stuff like that, and
I mean,
always
yeah,
good, always good vibes.
we keep in contact, and I think that's also important too, right? Like I told you earlier, I love what you're doing because you're giving our people a platform, or just really anybody in general. They don't even need to be from Guam. I know it's a little more Guam focused because that's within your network, and I think that's great. That's great for people back home and then people that are living out here, just to show that we have a community, right? And at the end of the day, it's really about community.
Yeah,
We don't achieve great things and we don't progress. Yeah, we go through the day to day on our own and we struggle on our own and we're in our head, but at the end of the day, in order to really make progress and to really like move forward or move upward, we need a community, right?
no
Like you
facts.
never
Yeah,
get to you never get to where you're going by yourself. And
no facts.
um no, man, I appreciate everything that you're doing. I'm excited. I'm really excited for you. I like where your mind is at. Granted, you're a few years younger than me, but I feel like you've also matured a lot. I've seen you grow from man. I remember you being a kid tagging along with your brother and with the
Yeah,
boys, and it's just like we used to call you Dex at the time, right? I don't even know how like your name went from like Dex to Isaac, but it's like your evolution. Dex was when you were this young,
yeah.
arrogant, like crazy kid was just down for anything, and then now you're so much more mature. You're married, you're doing well for yourself in your career, you have a beautiful family, and it's like man, there's a lot to be proud about. There's a lot of I know you've come from challenging a challenging upbringing, but nah, bro.
Appreciate it.
It's just a testament to hard work, testament to doing the right things and learning and adapting. So
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's when I go back home, it's always like when they call me Dax, I'm just like, dang, bro, like that's not me anymore. Like
yeah, but it's good though. It's a great reminder. It's almost like your past reminder
yeah,
of who you were. And now when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, man, I've grown so much from who that person was. That's to me, that's the purpose of life, man, is growing. is growth.
Well, brother, I appreciate it, and thank you so much again. And man, like if anyone's watching this, man, like and you are inspired by stories that people did make it out of the trenches and made something of themselves because they betted on themselves and they took the time and patience to build themselves. It's everyday work. It's not just a one day thing. It's a everyday
It
work and
never ends.
never ends.
The
No,
work never ends. You just become better throughout the process.
we do. Yeah. And sometimes you got to take a step back and appreciate, like Kev, what you said is like appreciate how far you came, and your work will show. But brother, thank you so much again, man, and I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you too, man. I'm excited to see this out in the world, and for anybody listening, I hope this inspires you. I hope this helps you, and if you ever need any motivation or someone to talk to, you have Isaac here on his platform. You have me on my platform at Cruz. So hit me up. Always willing to get in a chat and chop it up. So
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
thanks, brother.
I stayed silent when the world turned cold. Carry stories that I never told. Loyalty cost me more than I knew. Still